Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you all appreciate that we have very limited time for today's two very exciting speakers. So I would like to start sharp and introduce today's first spotlight speaker, Professor Ulrich Weinberg, who is the head of the School of Design Thinking at the Hasso-Plattner Institute at Potsdam University since 2007. He was working on 3D animations, computer animations, since the mid-1980s, believe it or not, and worked for companies such as BMW, Mercedes, and Siemens, just to mention a few, and also founded other companies specialized on 3D animation and simulations. And he's an internationally sought-after speaker, and in 2017, he was nominated by a German business magazine, Handelsblatt, as one of the top 100 innovators. So we're very lucky to have him, and I would like to invite Professor Weinberg to share some of his insights into what he calls design thinking 4.0.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I hope that works. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here to OEB. I think it was 3 years ago when I was here last time on the Spotlight stage. I think it was called that way. And there is so many things happening in the meantime. And one thing especially happened that I started to call design thinking what we're doing at Potsdam, not just design thinking, but actually design thinking 4.0. And I come to that a little bit later. We were so glad to have a little pre-conference actually at the School of Design Thinking on Wednesday, the OEB pre-conference, and some of the participants I saw too. Who else? Is there others? Oh yeah, over there, great. I will share a little bit about that at the end of my talk. This is how it looks at the School of Design Thinking and in Potsdam, and it is a very special place. It is a space we designed 12 years ago, actually together with our friends at Stanford D School, the guys who started design thinking 15 years ago. And together with them, we developed the German or European version. And we further developed that. Like every semester, every year, we are redesigning the program, reinventing ourselves, or try to reinvent ourselves. And it's all moving towards post-disciplinary future. And that is a little bit provocative, but I'm pretty sure that we are moving on that path right now. 12 years ago, I was not able to talk about that. I was saying, oh wow, we're bringing together different disciplines. It's multidisciplinary, or it's interdisciplinary, or transdisciplinary. But I think we are moving towards a world where the disciplines don't play that big of a role anymore, and we have to rethink about that. The discipline itself, to be on time, that plays a very certain role in the future, but all the different silos we were setting up, that will somehow disappear. And that is our main building at Potsdam. Hasso-Plattner, co-founder of SAP, he is still around. He's still a professor. He is 75 now, but very, very active with his entrepreneurial mindset. And we were celebrating the 20th anniversary of HPI, which is basically an IT institute, not a design thinking institute. It's actually an IT institution with about 500, or no, now we have 600 students, bachelor, master, PhD, normal programs. And it's a part of University of Potsdam, so we are part of a normal traditional university, but privately funded, which is a very unique situation. It's the only privately funded faculty in Germany of a publicly funded university. Very interesting, lots of pros, some contra, but it's a very good situation. And the School of Design Thinking is not 20 years old, it's 12 years old, as I told you already. And let's move in a little bit on the School of Design Thinking. What we did, we tried to establish the whole thing as a prototype for the learning environment of the 21st century. From the very beginning. That meant it could not be a master or a bachelor in design thinking. It's just a certificate, just a 2-day program, a 2-semester program, 2 days a week. And we are inviting students from all over, all the disciplines. We have currently 120 students from 70 different disciplines, from 60 different universities and 20 different nations. That's a little bit different every semester, but that is kind of the ratio. And 40 coaches, 120 students, 40 learning assistants. We used to call them teachers at the beginning, but very soon we were saying, no, we don't teach anymore. We are way more focusing on the learning experience than on the education experience of the educators. We are actually looking on the learning experience of the learners, and so we call ourselves and the 40 people coaches. And look at the ratio, 120 to 40. This is what we try to reach in Germany in kindergarten, and we are not achieving that. There's only Baden-Württemberg, the only state in Germany, they are making it. They have a 1 to 4 or 1 to 3 ratio. But I think it's crucial. I think it's really crucial in times we are living in right now, in times of severe change, Industry 4.0, digital transformation. We need help. Everyone needs assistance, and especially the learners need a lot of assistance. But there's another crucial point, no individual grading. And when we started, we were saying we are focusing on teamwork, on collaboration, bringing people together, a collaborative mindset, and that, if you want to foster that, individual grading is poison. So we didn't do it from the very beginning. I was not aware how important that decision was. And this is one of my main things I'm drawing out of our experience of 12 years looking at the education system. We have to move away from individual grading, and we have to come up with something different. We have to focus way more on the collaborative skills and the qualities. Come to that later. And HPI was not sleeping and not just staying with design thinking. No, we were introducing also online learning. There is an MOOC system, the Open HPI system. Who is using Open HPI platform? If not, check it out, openhpi.de. It's all for free, a lot of IT courses, week-long courses, but you can maneuver through that on your own pace. And there's also some design thinking courses now included, but it's mostly focused on IT. And there's another number in the middle, 3,000 professionals. That is the number of non-students we are training. Most of them we are training in design thinking on the side, on the campus, or in their organizations, because they are in the transformation and they figured out design thinking is really helpful set of instruments in the world we're living in. And we don't have a curriculum also at the D School, at the School of Design Thinking. We have projects. It's a project-based learning, and I just put out a portfolio from 2017 just to illustrate. We have large organizations, Allianz Insurance, pharmaceutical organizations, petrol station like Aral. They are approaching us. They are paying money. For our students, it's mostly free, but we ask the companies to pay the study, to pay something for every semester, and they get a team. Every company like Allianz get a little team of 4, 5, 6 people. Usually, none of them is an expert in insurance. Aral got also another team, and so we have a team of teams set up in the semester, and every team sees what the other teams are doing, and they are sharing their experiences. That is a part of our daily routines and the weekly routines, actually. And I just show you another portfolio to illustrate how colorful that is every semester, to have a new set of challenges coming from the outside. It's not academic challenges. No, it's really challenges from real organizations, from big corporations, small and medium-sized companies, sometimes startups, but also non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations, and especially that portfolio indicates, that is from 2015, that was the first semester where we had not just companies approaching us, but actually administration. The Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs in Germany, they approached us. They wanted to set up a student project, and that was highly interesting for us. Actually, we are right now in the phase that we are realizing a lot of demand coming out of those organizations, out of the public administrations, public services, and we are in the process right now of designing a program, a support and coaching program for these kind of issues, because our industry programs don't work so well for that. Lots of project partners were approaching us. That's just the selection of some of the big names, some of you know. And this is the professional education program we developed. That looks nicely designed, but actually when we started 12 years ago, we did not even think of setting up a program for professionals. That was just coming out of the project work we did. The people who were approaching us, they were seeing the impact of design thinking. They were seeing the energy which was coming out of the whole process, and then they came back immediately and saying and asking us, can we send our management do the same thing? We'll send them out for one semester, and we started to design 2-day courses, 3-day courses, customized workshops, and together with the industry, then we found out after the open course, as we call the 3-day workshop, we found out that's not enough for people who are leading transformation in organizations. They need more. And together with the German industry, with Volkswagen, Otto Group, SAP, and other companies, we developed the professional track, a 3 times 3 days program. It's actually a semester program, if you look at that, but just 9 days in all, and it's spread out. And that is a program. It took us 1.5 years to develop that, because we had no idea, we had no clue of what are the demands in the industry. And the same thing we are doing right now with public administrations, doing workshops, trying to find out what are their constraints, what are their needs for the future. Yes, we did a certification program that's also very helpful for large organizations. We are accompanying Bosch, for example, 400,000 people globally. And there are a lot of trainers now at Bosch who are using the learnings from the certification program here to train other people in the organizations. It's always, we are an education institution. We are not a consultant agency, but we are trying to help to set up snowball processes, snowball systems. And what are we doing there? We frame design thinking not only as a method. This is the framing which we started with 12 years ago when I returned back from Stanford, learned what they were doing there. There was no book about design thinking. Actually, there was no literature. It was just that was quite new. And my framing looked like this. There are 3 core things. The first one is we move away from the focus on individual creative power and individual learning on collaborative learning, multidisciplinary. And so we are appreciating diversity in any kind, very, very helpful. Not only different disciplines is interesting, not only different personalities, national backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, no, also handicapped. If there's a person, a team member sitting in a wheelchair, offers a different perspective to all the others in the team. And so for us, we are appreciating this kind of diversity, and that is key. That is, for me, key, because what we are doing is we are setting up a complex setting to solve complex problems. What we are doing mostly right now is we are seeing complex problems, and then we put the experts, homogeneous teams towards that. We are pretty sure that that is not the right way to solve complex problems. We have to learn from school on. Actually, I would love to see that happening in elementary schools already, thinking in a complex setting. Because now that scares a lot of people to collaborate with people from other different disciplines. But if you are trained that this is a very, very helpful process, it doesn't scare anybody. So the first thing is multidisciplinary teams. The second thing is the space. We figured out when we started 12 years ago there was no collaboration space available, not even furniture to collaborate. I was talking to the big companies like Steelcase, furniture manufacturers. Steelcase, the largest office furniture manufacturer on the planet, Vitra, others here in Germany. And I wanted to have a team table, stand-up table, because our friends at Stanford, they figured already out sitting is nice, but especially after lunch, like now, you feel, it's hard to stay awake. But standing is much better, and flexible should it be. So the tables you see here, we invented. Before we started the school, we had to build that on our own, together with a little company. And there's now, actually there's a design thinking line now, was also not intended. All the furniture there, we just built 8 tables at the beginning, and then companies were looking at that, and they're seeing the efficiency of that kind of stand-up position, asking, where can I get that? Can I get that for my company? I use it as a meeting table. So we have a design thinking line now, developing further new tables, new whiteboards, new accessories for teamwork, for collaboration. Everything is on wheels, everything is flexible, you can maneuver very, very fast, can rebuild your whole space. And it also carries a lot of information. And the third thing is the method, is the process. Yes, there is a part, and the important part here is that it's not the 6 steps actually, that gives you an idea, it might give you an idea, it's a linear process, but it's actually the little lines indicating that you can do this over and over again. That is the core part. It's not a linear thinking anymore, because linear thinking used to be, in analog times, a very, very helpful thing that worked quite well. But in times we are living in right now, where all of us are running around with these pieces of glass. Who of you does not have a piece of glass like this in the pocket? Not even one person. Okay, so we are running around with those pieces of glass, and none of the apps here is done in a linear mode, is produced in a linear mode, and they're even not finished. That's a new thing to learn for our students, because most of the students learn that it's important to get an idea, to plan something for 4 years, the outcome in 4 years from now, then define the milestones in between and go through the milestones, do it precisely, and then you're done. Every piece of software is not produced that way. Who of you has an app on the piece of glass which is finished? You know what? No, there's no. As soon as it's finished, as soon as it's not further developed, no upgrade, you'll probably throw it off your machine because you think it's dead. So, but this is a new way of thinking in versions, not just in finished things. And especially for the German hardware industry, it's very, very tough to think about that, to think that a car is not really finished. But if you look at a German car, a traditional one, not the new electrical cars, no, but the traditional ones, they are done in a way, we have a piece of hardware, then we have electricity a little bit, and a little bit of digital things in that. But if you look at a Tesla, for example, that's completely thought the other way around. There's a driving system, software design, and there is some hardware around it. And the piece which is constantly further developed is that kind of core piece of software. So that car is never finished. I know I don't own a Tesla, but the guys I know owning a Tesla, they are so happy with the upgrades. The car runs 1% faster than last day with the new upgrade, and they're so happy with that, and it's great. So to think in that way is very important, and these 3 core elements we found out are not only interesting in the learning sphere, it's the same thing what we are doing with the professionals. We put them in a space, we put them in teams, multidisciplinary teams, we put them in that iterative process, and we found out that especially that it's answering big questions leaders have right now. How do we work in the future? How do we as humans, how do we want to work? Do we still work isolated with individual competitiveness, or do we want to work collaborative? We want to work collaborative. Where do we want to work? In isolated single offices? No, not in the future. We want to have variable, flexible spaces, open spaces. And what kind of processes should we use? Not linear processes anymore, because nearly everything you are touching is somehow connected with some piece of software. So it's getting fluid automatically. So that is why I call the whole thing Design Thinking 4.0 now, because it's nothing about technology. But if you look at the big discussion about Industry 4.0, very tech-driven, and this is indicating the cultural dimension and the social dimension of digital transformation in Industry 4.0. And I think those are crucial. There are a lot more questions to answer, but the core questions are probably on that slide. And ask yourself in your organization, how do you treat with that? How do you deal with that? And it's very important because we are in a pattern shift right now. We are not in a little bit better situation. It's not like digitalization is making analog things a little bit faster, a little bit nicer, a little bit slimmer or so. No, it's a pattern shift. This is a pattern, the pattern of the old world, of the traditional analog world. And I'm using that, I call that in Germany Brockhaus, the encyclopedia. The most famous encyclopedia in Germany is called Brockhaus. And this is a good example for things which are passing away, because the encyclopedia, up and running since 200 years, was finished, was stopped printing 2014. So 5 years ago, the publisher was deciding we don't continue that thing. And I'm using that as an example as a metaphor for the traditional analog time. And if you look at organizations, if you look at schools, you have architecture, biology, chemistry, and so on. It's a nice illustration also of the siloification of things. And in analog times, we had to do that. We had to build up organizations. Companies were built like this. We had management level 1 and level 2 and the board up there. And so we are used to this kind of pattern, but actually the current pattern looks like this. This is the pattern of the 21st century. And that is severely different. That is not a little bit different. That is a complete different pattern. And if you are on that way, if you are thinking, yeah, we have to move towards that, that will change radically nearly everything. And companies who are approaching us with the same thing, they're seeing we're in that structure, but we want to move on to be more connected, more interconnected, networked, and so on. They ask us, how can we do that? And my answer to that question is design thinking. There are a lot of agile frameworks, a lot. From my perspective, through the last 12 years, we checked out everything. We're trying to use everything which is usable. I think, from my perspective, design thinking is probably the most holistic approach if you look at all the different agile frameworks. And it uses a language which is not too much tech. Yes, there's a little bit of tech, but it's more the language of designers, of architects, of normal people, and that is very, very important. I wrote a book about that, which is called Network Thinking, and then a friend of mine, while I was writing the book, and I was showing him that metaphor, he came up with a great new word for me. He was saying, Uli, the old version, the traditional analog one, is the pattern of the IQ, the individual measurement of single people. But what we need is WeQ, it's the we qualities. We don't have to focus anymore too much on the IQ, but this is how our education system is set up. We are measuring the intelligence of a single person. The IQ is just one number, but in schools we have a little bit more numbers, but it's all focused on one person. We don't evaluate and appreciate the collaboration power of people, the social aspects. We're just making competitors out of our young people, and this is a shame. We should not continue doing this. We should really rethink fundamentally what we are doing in the education systems, and not only in the universities. It starts in kindergarten, it goes over to schools, and then universities. I have a 11-year-old now, 5th grade, Berlin. We are living here in Berlin. Normal school. I bring him to school every morning. Monday morning, he has to carry books. Not for the rest of the week, because they use the books. But on the weekend, they carry the books home, and then on Monday. And he asks me every morning on Monday, Papa, can you carry my books? Because it's so heavy. It's about 7 kilograms of books. And it's all that kind of thinking. And he's still measured individually. And he loves to collaborate, of course, in the afternoon, in the evening, outside of school. But that should be core part of the school, not outside. It should be core. The core thing in school should be, that is the place where I learn to collaborate with a lot of people with very different ideas, very different national backgrounds, very different cultural impressions, and that should be the driving force. And what we are seeing, and I'm really happy about that, is that design thinking, that the approach Stanford and Potsdam and others were starting is now spreading all over the world. We started 2 years ago the Global Design Thinking Alliance. We started it at our 10th anniversary, and we have now 16 institutions in 5 continents. And that's a great thing. We're just, next week, we have a Global Design Thinking Week in Cairo, together with our friends who recently joined the American University in Cairo. There's a design thinking space, and that makes me a little bit more positive looking at the education system, because I see these kind of little nests of new thinking coming up in nearly every country, and we are trying to support that, which is very necessary. How hard it is, I have an example. I have just 2 minutes left here, but I want to show you those pictures, because those are pictures 2 years ago. We had our government, Mrs. Merkel, all the ministers visiting at the HBI for a 2-day retreat. They were saying we need to think about the digital future of Germany, and they were asking us to use our spaces, HBI. That is the welcome situation here with all the ministers. The whole cabinet was there for 2 days. And the space they selected was that one. Was that one. Was that space, that is one of our design thinking spaces. Now you have seen already the other one. I can show it to you. We were so happy, actually, that they decided to use that space because we wanted to see our whole cabinet in a creative mode. And we were expecting that they were using those, that they were choosing that space on purpose. But what they did is, they did this. They put the cabinet table into that space. They removed everything, all our furniture, all the possibilities to collaborate was completely out. And then they put their comfort zone into our place. And then they talked about digital transformation. They were not talking about history, about World War II or so. No, they were talking about the future. So, and that, I don't show those pictures to blame our government, absolutely not, because I see the same behavior with a lot of leaders in organizations. Yeah, it's very important to talk about digital transformation, yeah, and we know it's very, very severe, but we have a department taking care of that, you know, and they don't realize that there is a cultural dimension. It's not just about playing with pieces of glass. Yeah, Mrs. von der Leyen, who is now the European head, she is playing with 3 pieces of glass. She's orchestrating. She can do this. Amazing. You know, but this can, every kid today can do this. This is not the key thing. Key thing is, how do I behave? How do I really see that there is a cultural dimension of this big technology transformation? We are now working with the Chancellor's office towards more collaboration between the different ministries. We used the same space on Wednesday for the pre-conference, and you remember the same floor, and that is the starting part of our pre-conference about post-disciplinary learning. And my last, oops, yeah, a little bit too bumpy here. So that is the picture. We were dealing with 30. We were talking together and trying in a design thinking mode with 30 people from, I think, 10 different countries to rethink our education system towards more openness, towards the end of disciplinary activities. And there were very nice prototypes coming out of that. I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Please return back to your organization, think in a design thinking 4.0 mode, and move education. And let's together rethink education and rebuild it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.